This is a message for Theresa May and Iain Duncan Smith. Mr. Smith, are you aware that by your criminal actions, getting government departments like Department for Work and Pensions, the NHS and so forth to commit fraud, you have not only embarrassed the Conservative Party, but also your Prime Minister, who put her faith in you to deal with this issue, and you have lied to her, as she has been aware of me since 2017. You have reduced yourself to committing murder just so you can go to bed at night feeling that you won. That is a very scary thing to think of when one stands back and sees that you and your Prime Minister come from the same party, a party that is leading your country into new territory and a no man's land of Brexit. Seeing what a shambles has been made of everything already, the people of your country should be very worried about who is sitting at the top and leading them into a chaotic, unknown future. Everyone should be asking themselves if the Conservative Party are a party that should even sit in any type of public office when they cannot even listen to the people who voted for Brexit, or even to their constituents who write to them begging for assistance, only to be ignored and finally slandered and targeted to be killed by the very same people they went to for help. People should be asking themselves, is this the quality of the candidates the Conservative Party has to offer? A party with a Prime Minister who was made aware of crimes being committed by the Metropolitan Police of her country against innocent foreigners living legally in your country and turns a blind eye and ear to it. Doesn't care that someone who was sick, recovering from an operation, and had never been in trouble in her life, as she has worked in the care sector for much of the time she has been here, was being slandered by the police, which she only ever heard anything about it when she reported a fraudulent accountant to AAT standards, only to be told by them that the real reason she didn't want to use his services was not because he was fraudulent, but because she did not want him to do a police check on her. A clear sign that the fraudulent actions of your Metropolitan Police Service directly affected this innocent woman's livelihood as her business became targeted and shut down from this slander, claiming that she pled guilty for a crime she never even committed. Something that was common assault all of a sudden becoming actual bodily harm. I suppose that goes to show what Theresa May and her likes really feel about foreigners living in your country. If I was a leader in any of the other parties, I would work hand in hand with the other leaders of other parties to make sure the Conservative Party never hold a public office in your country again. Because quite frankly, you make your country and people look bad. Mr. Smith, my mother was a politician. She never even got to perform any duty in that office for 1 minute due to President Babangida declaring the results of the elections, a fraud right after the results came in. But yet our lives was turned upside down just because my mother, who was a widow and not a speaker of the native language in that state, won a seat in a public office, when others running for the same seat were born and bred and from the same state did not win. Apart from another female who was an indigene of that state, my mother was running against all men. Really upset them that a woman won. It did not matter to them that my mother would never perform her duties in that office. What bothered them the most is that she won. And for nearly the next 3 years, we stayed in 14 different places, from sleeping on people's sofas, floors, in rooms with no windows, getting eaten like crazy by mosquitoes, sleeping in the car, dealing with people telling us to leave their homes because of men coming and asking if we're in the area, and the families we stayed with would tell us to leave out of fear for the safety of their families. Seeing how people my mother helped turned on her, treated her like dirt just because they saw we were homeless, only eventually to end up in a hotel outside of town where my mother could finally leave me to live in a safe place with good security and come to the UK to set up home. I have included a link to part of the video I was trying to get out. The video, you got people whom I found to share it, telling them that it is about African porn, triple X, and African bastard. Right, Mr. Smith? This part of the video is about my mother and how politics affected our lives, all backed up with proofs and telephone conversations with her half-brother's wife, as their family gave us a place for respite when we were running for our lives, and her husband, who is now late, may his soul rest in peace, was also in politics and was the personal secretary of 3 consecutive governors of Enugu State. Now, when you are in the public eyes, Mr. Smith, when you are a politician, it comes with the territory. For you to feel that being confronted by a constituent was enough to warrant the ultimate slander and murder of this constituent makes you a danger to everyone in society, and you should not be allowed to deal with the public. I actually sent a message through some two-faced housing people from Friday Hill TMO, 2 females who came here, telling one of them to send word to you that I apologized about how in your face I was the day I told you off when I met you on the street in front of my house. I do not know if they got the message to you, Mr. Smith, but the reason I apologized is because I had a dream on 2 different occasions and was visited by a dead family member who told me off for speaking to you in the way I did. He said I was right to be upset, but I should not have spoken to you as I did, as you are an elder to me, and that I was not raised in that way, and they were disappointed. So I apologize now for that day if you did not get my apology. But that does not change the fact that you are a criminal and a narcissist whom should be investigated by the police. Is making someone homeless a lifelong dream of yours, Theresa May and Iain Duncan Smith? Especially as I am a foreigner who is here legally, has worked hard and paid her taxes and contributed to your corrupt system. Do you find it amusing and exciting to target vulnerable people in your country? Because from my experience and proofs to back it up, which would lock all of you up for violation of human rights, it clearly looks like it. Is it because I am distant from family and on my own? Is that why you feel I deserve to become a statistic in your country, Theresa May? Iain Duncan Smith, yours is just pure wickedness and lust for control, but what Theresa May gets out of it, I really do not know. Is it because of your deep dislike for foreigners? Just like the reason why a majority of British people voted to Brexit? Too many foreigners taking your jobs and money from your businesses. You British people don't even like your own white people, which is what the Europeans are. Now, I have included a link in the box below this video which clearly shows and explains how I am royalty and a princess and why I cut my family off, backed up with proofs. You see, when you have a family that likes to kill each other and you know you're not exactly like everyone else and get bullied a lot, that is not a family one should keep in any type of close proximity, because even from a distance they have still bullied me and harmed me. You know what? 2019 is a very special year, as it is the 9th year of the decade. It is the end. In tarot, number 9 is seen as the end. It's an ending, and 10 is the beginning. 10 is an ending as well, but when you add 1 plus 0, you finish with a 1, which is a beginning. The reason I started doing tarot predictions for countries for 2019 is because this is the year when we shall start to see the effects of all the weird and one-off eclipses in the last 9 years to start to manifest. We have had eclipses and weird moons which have not happened for centuries happening in the last 9 years. The wheel is turning, and many things have already started happening in the world. And more things will happen and shall continue like this for the next 2 years before a big event starts playing out from then on for the next further 3 years. Make it 5 years. 2019 is the beginning of the end. This means 2019 and 2020 are going to be very crucial years in our time on this planet. What has been put out? The eclipses are sending back this year for the next, and we shall feel it for the next few years. Your government has been systematically and methodically slandering me from 2010, destroying my businesses, lying about me to turn even people I have sat and eaten with on so many occasions against me, and I have done nothing to your government or your people. This shall come back, Theresa May and Iain Duncan Smith. The wheel is turning, and the world is already feeling the effects, and so shall you with Brexit, which is only the beginning.